Hey everyone, it's Nolan Wheeler with Sync Technology. This is Modern Work Mondays, and as always, I have my good co-host with me.
Jeff Strasser, Microsoft. How you doing, Nolan? It's
Hey
been a little
buddy, it's
while.
been a while. There is summer and you enjoyed some summer, I enjoyed some summer, but we're cracking on. And I think we've got like 7 or 8 folks that have contacted us that want to do some stuff. So we're going to have some barcode stuff going on, some accessibility stuff. I think you want to talk about some low code, no code stuff today. So these are going to come fast and furious and we're going to make up for lost time.
You got it. Sounds good.
Cool. So talk to
Good.
me, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, I know you just got back from one of our AI tour events and met with a number of partners and potential customers around the solution that your team's been building around taking legacy radio traffic and converting that into using generative AI, understanding the context of the conversations and those sorts of things. But one of the things I think that's most interesting to us as we talk about how store operations is going to transform is how do we take that legacy equipment and not just capture the radio traffic, but also start to and you built some of these agents as well, kind of sitting on the other end of those radios that questions can be asked around procedures and operations, PLU codes and things of that nature. So as we kind of start to bring, one of the nice things about the AI platforms and then the platforms that we talk about our clients with is putting in place a strategy that provides the tooling, the security, the governance, so you can really start to build agents at scale, right? So one agent, great, but for the organizations that are really going to kind of transform and take advantage of the scale of AI, it's not one agent, it's not 2 agents, it's 100 agents, 1,000 agents. There's a lot of concerns that come along with that, right? Governance, what becomes mission critical, how do we decommission things that aren't being used? But when you're able to spin up things quickly, you're able to address opportunity in the stores or in the warehouse or other manufacturing in the consumer goods world much more quickly, right? So how do we take that radio traffic, that legacy radio, with the understanding and language understanding that you're providing, and now start to let the business users build or technology users build agents much more quickly that can be on the other end of this radio. So that's kind of where the conversation's been, and I'd love to hear kind of some of the examples you've started to build out, and then I'll share a little bit more about what we're seeing in our customer conversations.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, you know me, and I've done this for many, many years in terms of being a big promoter of the Zebra equipment, but it just comes down to we're just not there quite yet, and we're going to get there. And I think AI is going to actually help folks realize and justify that they need to make more of an investment in Zebras so that they can have an experience as opposed to a telephone in terms of telephony or over a two-way radio. But, what we're hearing from folks is, there's obviously a fear in terms of like, what does that model do in terms of how far can it reach? Like, what are the guardrails? We heard that a lot at the Microsoft AI tour in terms of guardrails, but like the simplicity around take a bunch of SOPs and documentation, dump it into SharePoint, direct an agent towards that SharePoint within that prompt engineering and say, okay, now we're able to either leverage ideally a Zebra, but in reality, it's, go up to a regular phone within a phone network and it's, pound, whatever 25, AI, if you will, within the phone system, or hit the radio to ask those very generic questions around, whether it's time and attendance or it's, an SOP or return policy on something unique, even just hitting an endpoint to say, hey, is this item kosher or not? We're going to have Greg London, the barcode master, on in a couple sessions, and he's going to want to pontificate all about that type of stuff. So it's just a matter of like, if we don't have a Zebra in our hands, do we have a radio? And if we don't have a radio, how many footsteps does it take to get to a regular in-store paging system to make that agent request while we help the customer?
Yeah, and what we want to do to support that is have the technology platform that enables the rapid development of these exact solutions, right? Because the faster those problems are identified and addressed, right, you don't want to go through massive development cycles. So we're working together now on how we can use Copilot Studio, which is our low-code AI development platform, and start to plug into the other end of this voice radio traffic, and tap into those store operations guide at maybe the most simple, but like you said, product information without having to spin up a large development effort, without having to put in new guardrails and guidelines with large language models or with security or identity, like all that being built into the platform. So the business users, with a little bit of maybe technology help, can very quickly say, hey, this is the workflow, right? We want to access this product information, and if the system doesn't have that product information, really easily and almost to an extent drag and drop, right? There's a little bit of code and customization behind it, depending on how rich you want to go, but be able to plug that into, let's say, a Teams message or a WhatsApp message or a text message. So if the answer is not addressable, it can be escalated to a person for real-time communications back and forth, but still over that legacy radio, still using AI. It could open up a ticket and ask the frontline employee for more detail, like what's the product information, or whatever the scenario is. If the system doesn't have a response or isn't able to address it, or it's not a quality response, and then start to engage other people within the organization, or look at other data sources, or even just collect the information as something that needs to be addressed. And it can be, the people who own that content can be notified that, hey, we're missing the information about X, Y, and Z. We need to build this into, the knowledge base or the data source. So the next time that happens, we don't have to address it. But the key is, how do you put a platform in place and then rapidly address these scenarios so you can reduce the cost of development for every agent that you build? You can manage and govern them, decommission them as needed, spin up new ones as needed.
Update them.
Yeah, update them, and not worry about kind of the infrastructure behind it. So I think it'd be really interesting, as we work through it, and I think hopefully we will show in one of our next conversations what that can look like and how that can be done, and then we can actually really see a material impact by kind of stringing these technologies together, putting in that underlying platform, and getting real value out of AI. Because we've seen a lot of science projects. There's a lot of investment happening, but it's got to impact the business. And I think the conversations and the work needs to be reoriented to that, outside of just kind of chasing whatever the next bright shiny object is that hits the press.
100%. So we'll end it this way, because you gave me a challenge, and I love a challenge. So you told me next time we do this, we're going to get our VP of development on the call as well, Ryan Cooney. And we're going to go through this, and we're going to say, okay, here are some documents. We simply upload them here. Here's some prompt engineering or some Copilot Studios or whatever the case may be. We'll let Ryan figure out how that's going to be easiest and best shown on screen. And we're going to say very quickly, all within that call, here's some data that we put in here. Here's some prompts. Here's either a radio, or here's a Zebra, or here's a telephone sitting there on that local network, pound AI or whatever that shortcut's going to be. And we'll do that live next time when you and I are on the next call.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good, man. Well, I'm glad we're kicking these back off. So good to see you again. And like I said, lots of folks want to do these, so we're ready to rock and rip.
Looking forward to it.
Okay,
Have a great weekend. All right.
Bye-bye.